May 24, 2005 began like any other day. Mike, my neighbor's son, arrived in a car at 10:30 a.m. He was overjoyed. He wanted to take me for a ride in it so he could show it off. Mike, 18, and Ashley, 17, were seated in the front seats. I slid into the back seat next to Mike, who was driving. The car rolled over a rough patch of road as my seatbelt snapped into position. When I heard what sounded like metal shattering, Mike exclaimed, "What the heck was that?" "I don't know," I said, "but I heard it as well." "There's something wrong with the steering," Mike exclaimed, panicked. Then there was another noise that sounded very similar to the first, and Mike began yelling in a much more panicky tone. "There's no steering. There's no control. What should I do?" "Don't push on the brakes, and don't step on the throttle. Just coast to a halt," I murmured calmly as I leaned forward and gently placed both my hands on his shoulders. "What about the automobiles behind us?" he questioned, still speaking loudly and panickedly. "They'll have to stop as well," I answered, still attempting to seem and remain cool at this point. We collided with a Jeep. As I rocketed forward, the noises of smashing metal and breaking glass surrounded me as I came to an abrupt halt against my seatbelt before being thrown back into the seat. My breath was taken away by the jolt. I made a brief self-evaluation as I looked down at my feet. I inhaled and exhaled while sensing every part of my body. "Wow, that hurt, but I'm okay," I thought to myself as another impact occurred, this time on the driver's side of the car. I smashed against the headrest in front of me as I was thrown forward like a rag doll into a seatbelt that had unfastened after the first impact. I felt and heard the bones shattering as my chest crumpled around the headrest. When I came to, I saw my left hip was trapped between the seat and the car door. Mike was slumped forward in the driver's seat, his head resting on the steering wheel, and Ashley had already exited the vehicle. There was an odd, yet excruciatingly painful, shifting in my chest when I turned slightly to glance down and unfasten my seatbelt. I almost passed out from the pain, then discovered I couldn't breathe. I was able to unbuckle my seatbelt and pry my hip free from the gap between the seat and the door. My door was jammed shut when I tried to open it. Ashley opened the door as I leaned against it. "Mike is trapped. Can you assist him with getting out?" She said this while holding up her arm, which was dangling at an unusual angle and had a bone protruding from it. I fainted out from pain as I started to turn to help Mike. I realized I still couldn't breathe. I crawled out of the back seat, only to pass out on the ground by the rear tire once more. Honey, we have to relocate you. Cars are still passing by, and they can't see you since you're lying here. I'm scared they're going to hit the car and kill you. Can you get up? Hi, can you hear me?" I felt a hand on my shoulder and could hear someone chatting from a distance. But who exactly was it? I finally opened my eyes to see a woman's face talking to me. With her coaxing, I was barely able to grasp onto my chest with one hand and crawl across the road on my other elbow and knees. I could feel I was going to pass out again as I got closer to the shoulder. I knew I wouldn't be able to catch myself and that my face would hit the ground, so I leaned on a clump of weeds in the hopes that it would soften the blow. "Help me!" I yelled as I emerged from the darkness to Mike. "I have no way of getting out of here. I don't want to perish. Where's my mother?" My maternal instincts took over, and I wanted to go aid him. When I tried to move, the pain knocked me out again. I became completely cognizant at some time and felt like I was resting in a pool of warm water. I really hope I didn't piss myself, I pondered. The woman who had assisted me in crossing the street was kneeling beside me. I poked her on the arm to gain her attention and murmured, "Am I bleeding?" while motioning toward my stomach in one-syllable breaths. "No, you're not bleeding," she responded as she helped me pull my top and unfasten my jeans. I was aware that I'd sustained internal damage at the time. I could feel my stomach swell as the warm puddle became larger and spread across more of my tummy. I went out from the pain again as I tried to take a deeper breath. I only have a torrent of disjointed thoughts to remember the next several days. Please be patient as I try to make sense of it all. I'd hear Mike yell for assistance. I wanted to assist him, so I attempted to move. Then everything went dark again. There was no sound, no thought, only blackness. I imagined my mother's reaction when she found out about my demise. I thought about my children and couldn't put into words the feelings that rushed me as I realized they were about to suffer a loss. I figured it all out, or so I thought, and ultimately decided that my older two would go live with their father and that, while unhappy, they would be well. My younger two would go live with my parents, and while sad, they would be fine. I could feel myself fading away again, and I knew it was the end. This was the final chapter. I thought I was going to die. Dear God, grant my mom the strength she'll need to take care of my boys, one day at a time, I pleaded as I breathed what I thought was my final breath. Then, as I exhaled my last breath, I prayed, "Thank you, Jesus. I'm coming home." Then everything turned white. I could feel myself moving through all of this whiteness, up and away and quite swiftly. Then, from below, I heard the woman who'd been sitting next to me exclaim, "Oh my God, she's no longer breathing. She stopped breathing." I need to calm this woman down, I thought to myself. I need to let her know it's okay. I'd like to go. My sensation of flight slowed. The paramedics trying to strap me down on my back are the next thing I recall. My eyes sprung up, and I began shaking my head vigorously. I made the breaking gesture with my hands while pointing to my chest. "I want to stay on my side," I said in one-syllable murmurs. The paramedic tried to reassure me that the discomfort was caused by the seatbelt and that my chest was not injured. I shook my head no, pointed to my chest, and then made the braking motion once more. "How do you know?" he questioned. "I heard it shatter," I said, pointing to my ear. He agreed to let me stay on my side, but told me I had to do so until we were at the hospital. I said, "Good," to him, and then closed my eyes as I passed out again. The only portion of the ambulance ride I recall is turning up the hill to the hospital. I recall the agony and how unpleasant it was. I don't recall coming, nor do I recall much about the emergency department. One oddity I noticed was the doctor's ability to razz me up whenever they wanted to ask me a question. Between the inquiries, there are no recollections of anything. No pain, no thoughts, no noises, nothing. They asked me to sign something, granting them permission to remove Mike's eye. They must have assumed I was his mother. I'd simply shake my head no. My aunt was present as they wheeled me into surgery. She inquired as to the purpose of the surgery. One nurse stated that it was to repair the shattered bones in my chest, but another nurse corrected her, saying, "No, she's bleeding internally and it could be her spleen." Then everything went dark again. On May 27th, as my consciousness resumed processing thoughts, I realized I was going to awaken. I knew I was ready to wake up when my consciousness began processing thoughts again. Did I dare to look up? What would I be doing? Was I dead and resurrected in the afterlife? Would it be paradise? Is it going to be hell? Is it going to be something or somewhere else? I was convinced I was dead and waking up in heaven. I couldn't hear anything, not even my own breathing or heartbeat. I eventually got up the confidence to open my eyes. I was enraged. Isn't this a joke? I'm currently in the hospital. My feelings, my fury, my disappointment were all out of control. This cannot be right. I had fought death while lying on the side of the road and had been defeated. I recall giving in. I recall giving up. I recall dying. I was flying somewhere in the skies. I remembered the bright white all around me, the lack of pain, the calm and joy I felt. What happened to it? This is not acceptable. This is obviously a joke. This isn't funny at all. This isn't right. I'm ready to go home. Please bring me home, I begged.